First parva called Anukramanika, the second Sangraha, then Pausha, then Pauloma, then Astika, then Vansavantaravana, Adivansantaravana, then Sambhava of wonderful and thrilling incidents. Then comes Jatagriha, setting house of lack on fire. That's the meaning of Jatagriha Daha. That is a parva. Then Hidimba Vada, killing of Hidimba Parvas. Then comes Bakasura Vada, slaughter of Bakasura. And then Chitraratha. Chitraratha is the place which many people do not know. That is the place where Arjuna defeats Gandharva Chitraratha and he becomes friend of Chitraratha. He gets he gives Agneya weapon to Chitraratha. Of course, Chitraratha will be the one who is going to help Arjuna learn dance when he goes to Indraloka. That comes later. Then he talks about when they talk about the family. Then Arjuna knows about his ancestors also through Chitraratha. After this, Pandavas go to Dripada, and then the Swayamvara Parva comes. The selection of husband by Krishna. Her name is Krishna, and we know her as Panchali because she is from Panchala. Her name is Krishna because she is dark in color, and she's daughter of Drupada, so she's called Draupadi. So people should know that this is how it. People used to call like this Tamil Mahabharata narrator Nagai Mugundan. Sometimes I heard some time ago I heard him saying that because the gods have seen how Krishna instructed Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna and became charioteer. That's how he came to be known as Partha. No, Partha Sarathi. No, that's not because of that. Partha Sarathi is son of has become charioteer of son of Pratha. Pratha is the original name of Kunti, and Kunti Bhoja is a one who raised her. Okay, of Bhoja family. His name is Kunti. The king's name is Kunti, and he raised her and gave her his name called Kunti. So that's why Pratha is also called Kunti. Kunti is a masculine name, not a feminine name. Anyway, that's about the background. So, in which, of course, selection of in Swayamvara, Arjuna exercises Kshatriya duties and then wins Draupadi as wife. Then comes Vaivahika. That is how the marriage life of Draupadi has been explained. And then comes Vidura because Vidura Gamana is the Parva next one. Then Rajyalabha Parva where the Pandavas get the kingdom. So that's the next Parva and acquirement of the kingdom. Then Arjuna Vanavasa Parva because Arjuna sees Yudhishthira and Draupadi together. Then he has to go for 1 year out of Hastinapura, and that's Arjuna Vanavasa Parva. Then Subhadra Harana Parva. The last part of that is he goes to Dwarka where he sees Subhadra and then he kidnaps her and gets married to her. That's the one. After this comes Harana Harika Parva, then Kandava Parva, that is burning of Kandava forest. Then Maya Darshana, meeting of Mayasura, the architect of Maya Bhava, Maya Bhavan in Maya Sabha in Indraprastha. So then comes Mantra, Jarasandha, Digvijay. This is all the campaign against other Kshatriyas. Then comes Rajasuya Parva, where Yudhishthira performs Rajasuya sacrifice and then he has to give Arghya. So that is also another Parva. The robbing of Arghya, that is the next Parva. Arghya Viharana Parva, that is the one. Then Sisupala Vadha Parva, because killing of Sisupala by Krishna because he keeps abusing Bhishma and other elders. Then also he abuses everyone, including Krishna. Then after 100 mistakes is over, then Krishna kills him off. Then Aranyaka Parva, Kimbira Parva, that is, sorry, this after this comes a Dhyuta Parva because the gambling is the Parva, then Anudhyuta Parva, subsequent of gambling. Then Aranyaka Parva, that is Pandavas exiled to forest. Then Krimira Bhada Parva. That is, Krimira is a demon whom Bhima kills, and this will be informed to Duryodhana. This comes as a narration. Then Arjuna Vigamana Parva. That is Arjuna's travel, because Yudhishthira is scared of Karna, the one with natural armor. So then Vyasa Bhagavan appears before him, and then he gives a mantra to Yudhishthira. After Yudhishthira pleads, ask Yudhishthira to plead to get a mantra, and then this mantra will be informed to Arjuna. And Arjuna goes on to do penance. So this is the story about that. Then he meets Lord Shiva in Kirata form. So it is Kairata Parva. In this Kairata Parva, you will see Arjuna and Mahadeva fighting. Who comes as a hunter? Then after this Indraloka Magana Parva, that is Arjuna's journey to Indraloka. He spends 5 years out there. In that, uh, and learns about music, dance, and also gets various weapons. During the time, then we have got Pandavas doing the going into the pilgrimage. At the time, many people, of course, before going to pilgrimage, there are many sages who come and then instructs a lot of things to Yudhishthira. And one of those things is Nala Upakyana Parva. The story of Nala and Damayanti comes here. Tirthayatra Parva is the next ones. The vice prince of Kurus would travel, and then in that there is a disguise. There is a demon who is in disguise of. By his name is Jatasura. The battle of Then comes the battle of Yakshas. Then battle with Nivata Kavachas. When Arjuna comes back, he narrates the story uh, about how he fights Nivata Kavachas. Then Ajagara Parva, that is a Nausha becomes a snake, big snake, and he would swallow everything that comes under him. So he catches Bhimasena, and then Bhimasena says, "I have got 10,000 elephants power, but I'm not able to do anything to you." He says, "I'm your ancestor Nausha, but I'm very hungry, so I'm going to kill you and eat you." Then Yudhishthira comes and answers his questions and releases Bhimasena from the jaws of death. Uh, then Nausha also gets freed from his curse from sage Agastya and goes to heaven. Then comes Markandeya Samasya, meeting with Markandeya Maharshi. He talks about Kali Yuga, he talks about many stories. Um, so that is Markandeya. Then comes Draupadi and Satyabhama, Gosha Yatra, meeting of Draupadi and Satyabhama. That's another Parva. Then Gosha Yatra Parva, that is where Kauravas come in disguise. Then comes Mrigaswapna, that is the dream of the deer by Yudhishthira. So he is told by the lions that you have killed many till now. Please show some mercy on us. Our population has already decreased. Then he goes away from that place to another forest. So that's another interesting. See, we have to be compassionate. That is a story, even to the cruel ones. That is the meaning of this Mrigaswapna. Then Brihadaranya, story of Brihadaranyaka and Aindrajumna. Aindrajumna was a king. He lived, his good time was over. So it says, if anybody remembers you in this world, then you can stay in heaven further. That's what Indra says. Then he comes to Markandeya Maharshi. Then from Markandeya Maharshi to many older people he goes. Because Markandeya Maharshi doesn't know Indrajimna. Finally, when uh, I think there's a tortoise, if I remember correctly, that tortoise says, "Yes, I know Indrajimna Maharaja because of the cows that he has donated. This whole pond has been formed. So many cows have walked over this, so this pond has formed." So that's then immediately from heaven comes uh, a chariot, and he boards it and then goes back to heaven. That is Indrajimna story. And then Draupadi Harana, the protection of Draupadi by Jayadratha, and Jayadratha Vimokshana, that is release of Jayadratha, because in the forest he kidnaps with Kotikasya, and Kotikasya is the one who is the king of Sauvira, which is present day Balochistan. So then he'll be released. Story of Savitri, that is again this, because after this we hear the story of Savitri. Once he says, the rishis comes and talk the story of Savitri, and the last is the story of Rama. How then when the same thing again, Markandeya, if I remember correctly, it's Markandeya Maharshi or if some other Maharshi is there. He comes and talks about the story of Ramayana here. The parva that next is Kundala Harana, that is the theft of earrings, in which Karna loses his earrings and armor. What comes next is Aranya, and then Virata Parva, the entry of Pandavas and fulfillment of promise, living unknown for a year, and the destruction of Kichakas. That is not we in our TV serials and cinemas. They show only one Kichaka, but the Kichaka is a head, and the second he has got 100 brothers. After his death, another 100 will be killed by Bhima because they again try to abduct Draupadi, which no serial, no cinema has shown you. This is something which everybody who listens to me can know it. They will be killed within about 45 minutes to 1 hour maximum because 1 hour before twilight he starts, and then before the Brahma Muhurta, and then finish off killing by Brahma Muhurta. So this is how all these people will be killed, and he releases Draupadi from their uh, custody and sends her back. Then Goharana. So that is the Parva next. Then marriage of Abhimanyu with daughter of Virata. Next is wonderful Parva called Udyoga Parva. Udyoga Parva is place where you will see how uh, diplomacy is being played against each other. So this is a very interesting chapter, which not a single series, TV series, or um, any movie has ever been properly made on this, unfortunately. But all the ambassadors of India should be reading this for better um, performance because there are four ambassadors mentioned. One is the Purohita of Drupada. He goes and talks about peace, and then he doesn't show any kind of, you know, what do you call, the diplomacy skills. He just goes and tells very hot way, you have to return the kingdom, this, that, and then Sanjaya goes and then he tries to play gimmick because he's a very well versed diplomat, Sanjaya. So without giving away kingdom, he wants to send Pandavas to forest once again because they say, oh, you're already old, you will be dying, you don't know when the death is going to come. Anyway, you have to go and do penance. Why don't you continue doing dwelling in the forest? This is how Sanjaya talks. This nonsense. Then Krishna comes and tells him that they are Kshatriyas. They don't have to. They need to rule. So give back their kingdom. Uh, so that's how Krishna goes and tells him. And then he also shows his Viswarupa. The fourth one will be Uluka, who wants to damage the relationship further and anger Pandavas. That is Udyoga Parva. And in that there are many stories, which in which nobody again shows you. So the first is Udyoga Parva, then Sanjayana Parva, that is coming of Sanjaya, then Praja Jagra, sleeplessness right of Dhritarashtra owing to his anxiety. Here Vidura would come and enlighten him. Then uh, Sanasuyata sage would come and teach philosophy, spiritual philosophy. Then Yana Sandhi, that is arrival of Krishna. Then the story of Matali and Galava. This is the rishis who come because the rishis have come there to see Krishna's beautiful universal form. So they already know it. So they ask Krishna that they can come and see. In that, Narada talks about Galava and Matali story. So that's about ego and how he paid price for egoistic. Then about that's he was a student disciple of Vishwamitra. So all this are there. So then Jamadagna's son uh, Parashurama also talks about many stories. So each one try to make Duryodhana understand. So like again the stories of Savitri, Vamadeva, Vainya, the story of Jamadagnya, um, and Shoda Sarjika, the arrival of Krishna on the court, and then Vidula Putrasana, that is Vidula's story is narrated by Kunti, to muster troops, and the story of Sheta, and then the quarrel comes the quarrel of high souled Karna in the march to the field of troops both sides. Next has numbering Ratis and Athiratas. So this is a story from Bhishma. He talks about all this. Then comes Messenger Uluka, which I mentioned, to further damage son of Shekuni. Again, increase their wrath of Pandavas. Then the story of Amba. Then story of Amba is the one who became Shikandi in the next life. Shikandi is not a neutral gender, but she was born female and became a male, and this because of Lord Shiva's blessing. And then there was one Gandharva who changes his sex for male to become male, and he becomes female and she becomes male. So this story is also very important. The reason why Bhishma doesn't want to kill her is because she got a boon that Lord Shiva gave, that Bhishma will be killed by her in the next life. Then comes thrilling story of installation of Bhishma as commander in chief. Next is the creation of insular region of Jambu. That is Dhritarashtra asks because he's blind, he doesn't know. So he asks about how the continent is, how the earth is, for which these kings are fighting. So then Sanjaya goes on because he has been blessed with divine sight, so he understands everything. So it's called then Bhumi Parva, the Jambu Parva. Jambu is Asia. Bhumi Parva, then about the formation of the islands. Then comes Bhagavad Gita, then the death of Bhishma, then installation of Drona as the commander in chief, the destruction of Samsaptakas, the death of Abhimanyu, the oath of Arjuna to kill Jayadratha by next day, and the Jayadratha Vadha Parva is the next. Then Ghatotkacha Vadha Parva, then the story of death of Drona Vadha Parva, and of surprising interest. Then comes is called discharge of weapon of Narayana. After death of Dronacharya, his son Ashwadama gets angry and says, "I'm going to finish off Pandavas by discharging Narayana weapon." But Krishna saves them because being Narayana himself, he knows how to pacify his weapon. Then Karna is installed as commander. Then Shalya, Karna Parva and Shalya Parva. Then immersion in the lake by Duryodhana, in the encounter between Bhima and Duryodhana with the clubs. Then comes Saraswata. Then the description of holy shrines, and then genealogies. Then comes Soptika Parva. The Sopti means sleep. When they were sleeping, Pandavas were sleeping after the war. Aswadama at night goes and wakes them up and kills them. Then comes Aishika Parva. That is, Aishika is the straw. That is Kusa, you can say. Uh, and then I don't call it Kusa. It's kind of another grass which he takes and invokes Brahma Siru Namakastra. It's not Brahmastra, it's Brahma Siru Namakastra, and releases it. And Arjuna had to do the same thing. Then Vyasa Maharshi and Krishna, both of them curse Aswadama, and Aswadama curses back Vyasa Maharshi also. So that's a very interesting story at the time. We can talk about it. Then comes Jala Pradhana, that is oblation to the dead, water to the dead, and the wailings of the women. Next is known as Shraddha, describing the funeral rites performed for the slain Kauravas. Comes the destruction of Rakshasa, Charvaka, who had assumed the disguise of Brahmana for deceiving Yudhishthira. Then the coronation of wise Yudhishthira. This next is called Pravibhaga. Then comes Shanti Parva, then Rajadharma Anusasana, Apad Dharma, Moksha Dharma. These are all going to come in that. You will see Vishnu Sahasranamam, Siva Sahasranamam, also, and other important aspects of philosophy which we can follow in our daily life. Then Shuka Prashna, Abhigam, Abhigamana, Brahma, Prashna, Manasasana, the origin of Durvasa, disputes with Maya. The next is to be known as Anusasanika, the ascension of Bhishma to heaven. So Bhishma's Niryana Parva. Then Ashwamedha Parva, which destroys all these sins if you read. then must be known as Anugita Parva, because Arjuna says, Krishna, you told me, instructed me a lot of things during the before the battle, and I wanted to hear what you said. Then Krishna re-instructs Gita, which is called Anugita, which again has a lot of spiritual meaning, and it is very different from Bhagavad Gita of three yogas. What you read, it has a different kind of course, it's a kind of different way you can understand this philosophy, same philosophy. Then there's called Ashramavasa because Dhritarashtra decides to go to forest and die over there. Then Putra Darshana, meeting of spirits of the deceased sons. Then everybody wants to see their husbands, their kids, their fathers. Oh, so they then Vyasa Bhagavan, and then he comes, he brings all the dead, headed by Bhishma. So everybody comes back. They spent one night happily. There was no fear, no dislike. Everybody was happy. Then the wives of the dead, whoever wanted to go and join their husbands, sage Vyasa sends them. So almost everybody leaves. So that's very interesting, and it's very pious chapter which we should read. Then after this, the death of sage Dhritarashtra, royal sage Dhritarashtra and his wife and Kunti. This information is given by Narada. Sage Narada comes, and the next is called Mosala Parva, which abounds with terrible and cruel incidents. Then comes Mahaprasthanika, the ascension to heaven. Then comes a Purana which is called Kilavansha, and Vishnu Parva, Vishnu's frolics and feats as child, destruction of Kansa, lastly, wonderful Bhavishya Purana in which there are prophecies regarding future. This high souled Vyasa composed his 100 Parvas, of which the above is only one of an abridgment, having distributed them to 18. The son of Suta recited them consequently in the forest of Naimisha as follows. Adi Parva contained Poshya, Pauloma, Stika, Adivansantara, Sambhava, burning of house of Lak, and slaying of Kedimba, and destruction of Asura Vakasura, Chitraradha, Swayamvara of Draupadi, her marriage, and the overthrow of rivals in war, the arrival of Vidura, the restoration, Arjuna's exile, abduction of Subhadra, gift and receipt of marriage, Dover, the burning of the Kandava forest, meeting of Asura Maya. The Pausha Parva treats the greatness of Utanka, Pauloma, the sons of Brigu. Astika describes birth of Garuda and the Nagas, the churning of ocean, the incidents relating to birth of celestial steed Ucheshrava, and finally dynasty of Bharata is described in the snake sacrifice of King Janamejaya. The Sambhava Parva narrates the birth of various kings, heroes, and of that sage Krishna Dvaipayana, the partial incarnation of deities, the generation of Dhanavas, Yakshas, great prowess, serpents, Gandharvas, birds, creatures, lastly, the life and adventures of King Bharata, the progenitor of the line that goes by his name, son, born of Shakuntala and Dushyanta, royal sage Dushyanta, and how she ended up in the in the ascetic sage Kanva. The Parva also describes greatness of Bhagirathi, the births of Vasus, the house of Santanu, and their ascendancy to heaven. In this Parva is also narrated birth of Bhishma, uniting in portions the energies of other Vasus, his renunciation and royalty and adoption of brahmacharya and mode of life in adherence to his vows, and his production of Chitrangada after death of Chitrangada after death of Vichitravirya. Sorry, death of Vichitravirya after death of Chitrangada. So after Vichitravirya has been placed on the throne, the birth of Dharma among men in consequence of Animandavya. That is, Dharma is none but Yamadharma Raja. So Animandavya has cursed him to become son of a slave. So this is how he got it. And then Vyasa's blessings, how Pandavas took birth. I mean Dhritarashtra, Panduraju, and Vidura were born. Then comes birth of Pandavas, plottings of Duryodhana, to send sons of Pandu to Varanavata, and the dark councils of sons of Dhritarashtra in regard to Pandava's advice administered to Yudhishthira on his way. that well-wisher of Pandavas, Vidra, in Mlecha language, the digging of the hole, burning of Purochana, and in sleeping woman of fowler caste with her 5 sons in the house of luck, the meeting of Pandavas in the dreadful forest with Hidimba, the slaying of brothers of uh, Hidimba by Bhima of great prowess, the birth of Ghatotkaja, the meeting of Pandavas with Vyasa, accordance with his advice, there stay in disguise in the house of Brahmana, in the city of Ekachakra, the destruction of Asura, Baka, the amusement in the populace of sight, extraordinary births of Krishna and Drishtadyumna, the departure of Pandavas, Panchala in obedience with injunction of Vyasa, and moved by desire of winning the hand of Draupadi, on learning the tidings of that Swayamvara from the lips of Brahmana, the victory of Arjuna over Gandharva, called Angara Parna, on the banks of Bhagirathi river, on his contraction of friendship with his adversary. On hearing from the Gandharva story, Tapati, Vasishta, Aura, the Parva treats with journey of Pandavas towards Panchala, acquisition of Draupadi in the midst of other Rajas, by Arjuna having successfully pierced the mark in the ensuing fight, defeat of Selya, Karna, and other crowned heads of and hands of Bhima and Arjuna of great prowess, the ascertainment of by Balarama and Krishna, the sight of these matchless exploits, the heroes of our Pandavas, and the arrival of brothers in the house of Potter, where Pandavas were staying, the dejection of Drupada on learning that Draupadi would be wedded to 5 husbands. Wonderful story of 5 Indras related in consequence, the extraordinary, divinely obtained wedding Draupadi, sending Vidura by sons of Dhritarashtra, envy to Pandavas, the arrival of Vidura, the sight of Krishna, the abode of Pandavas, Kanda Uprastha, in their rule over one half of the kingdom, fixing of turns by sons of Pandu in obedience to injunction of Narada. And this is coming from Sunda, Upasunda story, which Narada explains so they can have connubial relationship with Krishna in manner in which Upasunda has been recited for this. This Parva treats the departure of Arjuna in forest according to the vow, having seen Draupadi and Yudhishthira sitting together as he entered the chamber to take out arms for delivering a kain of a certain Brahmana. The Parva describes Arjuna meeting up on the way to Ulupi, the daughter of Naga, and it relates to visit of several sacred spots. The birth of Babru Vahana, the deliverance of Arjuna of 5 celestial damsels who has been turned into alligators by imprecation of a Brahmana. The meeting of Madhava and Arjuna in the holy spot of Prabhasa. The carrying away of Subhadra by Arjuna, incited heroita by her brother Krishna in the wonderful car moving on land and water through midair, according to wish of the rider. Departure for Indraprastha with a dover with the conception of womb of Subhadra, that prodigy of prowess Abhimanyu. Yagnashini is giving birth to 5 children. Then follows the pleasure trip of Krishna and Arjuna to banks of Yamuna, acquisition by them the discuss celebrated bow Gandiva, the burning of the forest Khandava, the rescue of Maya by Arjuna, the escape of serpent and the begetting son of the best of rishis, Mandapala, in the womb of bird Sarangi. The Parva is divided by Vyasa into 227 chapters. The 227 chapters contain 8,884 slokas. The second extensive Parva is called Sabha, or the assembly, full of matter. Subjects of this Parva are establishment of grand hall by Pandavas, their review of their retainers, the description of the Lokapalas by Naradas, well acquainted celestial regions, preparation by Rajasuya sacrifice, preparation for the sacrifice of Rajasuya, the destruction of Jarasandha, the deliverance by Vasudeva, the princess confined by mountain pass, the campaign of universal conquest by Pandavas, the arrival of princess of the Rajasuya sacrifice with tribute, the destruction of Sisupala on the occasion of the sacrifice, in connecting with the offering of Arghya, Bhimasena's ridicule of Duryodhana in the assembly, Duryodhana's sorrow and envy at the sight of magnificent scale of arrangements has been made indigestion. Duryodhana in consequences, preparation of the game of dice, defeat of Yudhishthira at the play by Vili Sekuni, deliverance of Dhritarashtra of his afflicted daughter-in-law Draupadi plunged into sea of distress caused by gambling as a boat tossed about by tempestuous waves. The endeavors of Duryodhana to engage Yudhishthira again in the game, the exile of defeated Yudhishthira with his brothers, they constitute that what has been called by great Vyasa the Sabha Parva. The Sabha Parva is divided into 8 sections, 78 sections. Oh, best of Brahmanas, 2507 slokas. See, this is about Sabha Parva, but Sabha Parva doesn't have um, what we say is the insult by Draupadi. It's done only by Bhima. Here I stop and I'll continue with the next video.